Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that you were already here. Now, in case you're thinking, what is with this kung fu mood that you find me in? Well, I'm not in a fighting mood today. I'm in fact in a very disco-oriented mood. Now, if you're thinking, what is the connection between these two things? The connection is very simple. Kung fu fighting, Dance Little Lady Dance, and a lot of hits of Tina Charles in the 1970s, or essentially the sound of disco, was redefined by Biddu Appaiah. Now, many of us know Biddu because of his work in Feroz Khan's Kurbani. Now, this is a film for which Biddu composed a great iconic song, Aap Jaisa Koi Meri Zindagi Mein Aaye. Which also introduced the voice of Nazia Hassan to the world. Now, Biddu is an Indian who shifted to the UK in the 1960s and went on to become one of the most influential music producers as far as disco, Eurodisco went. And not only these two genres, but Biddu also redefined the disco sound in India, Japan, Thailand, Philippines, and a host of other countries. He was one of the biggest names by the end of the 1970s when it came to the disco sound. And by 1980, with Feroz Khan's Kurbani, he redefined the disco sound for Hindi films. Later, he also redefined the sound of indie pop or even Pakistani pop, thanks to his albums that he produced for Nazia and Zoeb Hassan. And later, Alisha Chenay's Made in India. Yes, that was also produced by Biddu. Biddu single-handedly had such a big impact on the sound of two decades, the 1970s and 1980s. It's a tragedy that many of us don't know much more about him or even don't turn to his music as often as we should do. But this is Cinemazi Studios. I'm Gautam Chintamani, and here we are always about going back in time. So let's spin the disco ball and go and learn a few things about an Indian, Biddu, who was a global icon. If you were anywhere in a city or in an urban landscape in the 60s, it would have been practically impossible for you to not know what the hippie movement or the counter-culture of the period was. This was sweeping cities across the world, and India was no exception. It was in the 60s that Biddu developed a fascination for pop music. He used to listen to a lot of Radio Ceylon at that time, and that is where he caught that sound which impressed him, and that was unlike the film sounds of that era or unlike anything else. And there were very few bands in India at that time. In fact, Biddu and a friend of his also started a band called the Trojans, which generally played cover versions of Rolling Stones or Beatles number and the other popular numbers at that time. Biddu wanted to pursue a career in music, but he was not breaking it through to the next level. In India in the 60s, no matter how good you were, it was a little difficult to break into the whole Western music scene, so to speak of. And that is what happened to his band also. One of his friends and band co-members decided that he wanted to pursue studies, so he left the band. And for a little while, Biddu's band was called the Lone Trojan because he was a solo act. That was also around the time, the late 1960s, 1967 to be precise, where Biddu decided to try his luck abroad. And this is the fascinating part of his journey. Now, he decides to leave India and go to England, but because he's a student and he's not that well off, he has to plan his trip. Now, he becomes a part of the Hajj trip to Makkah Medina. From there, he hitchhikes his way through Europe and finally reaches UK in the late 1960s. One of Biddu's ambitions of going to UK was, believe it or not, to meet the Beatles. He did get to meet the Beatles, and he was not very impressed. He gave an interview somewhere that he thought that John Lennon was very shabbily dressed, and that was the end of his dream. He tried dabbling around in a lot of professions. He was a chef for a little while. He did these kind of odd jobs because, truth be told, in the 1960s, for an Indian to make it big in London as a music producer or a composer or a singer was next to impossible, and you could sing English songs and try and do that, but then why would somebody bet on you when there were better options available in terms of the language? Anyway, he kept trying his luck and he managed to become a producer and a singer for a while. But his singing career didn't go anywhere, and that is when Biddu realized that the greater success would be if he became a producer and started producing music for different bands. In the late 1960s, early 1970s, he managed to make it big when he composed a song, and he produced the song for a Japanese band called the Tigers. That song was Smile for Me, and it was written by the Bee Gees. Yes, Barry and Maurice Gibb wrote the lyrics, and the Japanese singers did not know English, so it was up to Biddu, who also taught them how to speak English phonetically.
Smile for me.
That song became a big hit, and it established his name as a producer. But this was not enough. He was not getting the kind of breaks that he wanted. And small little jobs. He composed the background score for a film called The Embassy in the early 1970s. These kind of things kept happening. But it did not matter. It did not make a very big difference in the grander scheme of things. The small successes notwithstanding, Biddu was not being able to cut it through. He had developed his style by now. This was a very typical North Soul style, which was very popular in Britain of that period. His music had become very distinctive, solid rhythm with great melody. But that success was still eluding him. And around this time, he came in contact with a guy called Carl Douglas. Now, Carl Douglas was quickly trying to put together an LP, and he was running short of one song. So Biddu quickly composed a song in 10 minutes flat, which was supposed to go on the B side of the record, and that song was Kung Fu Fighting.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning.
As luck would have it, the music company decided to switch and make Kung Fu Fighting the side A song, whereas the other song became the side B song. And the rest is actually history. The song became so big, it sold over 11 million copies in that time and firmly established Biddu. By the mid-1970s, Biddu started appearing on television. He was a recognizable face. And he also had an album at this time which was called Blue-Eyed Soul. There was one track in that album, Summer of 42, which became a very big hit, and he started performing across the scene. Around this time, disco was also coming into its own. It's the mid-1970s. The sounds are changing, the music is changing, the style of producing music is changing. And this is where history was actually created when Biddu came in contact with a lady called Tina Charles. Tina Charles had sung a few songs, but the same thing, she was not cutting it through to the next league. And their songs together like I Love to Love and Dance Little Lady Dance. Now, Biddu was one of the pioneering producers when it came to disco. And if you're thinking that why are we talking about disco and funk and people like Tina Charles or Carl Douglas and not anything more about Biddu's film work, well, this is the period where Biddu made a transition from being just a music producer to a film composer. And it happened in a very roundabout manner. It was the early 1980s, in fact the late 1970s, when funk was slowly replacing disco as the go-to scene as far as sales were concerned. And disco was essentially a dying breed at that time, and it needed some kind of a new shot in the arm. But would that happen? Could that happen? And could people like Biddu actually play a part in that? Now, that was the big question. It was around this time that Feroz Khan, who was making Qurbani, lands up in England because he wanted a nice club number for Qurbani, and he was not very happy with what was happening in India at that time. The only options that Feroz Khan had was probably trying to get his regular music composers like Kalyanji Anandji, or maybe trying R.D. Burman and get a club number or a disco-influenced sound. But Feroz Khan was not somebody who would settle for anything less than the best. When it came to films like Dharmatma, he actually flew his entire unit to Afghanistan and he shot on location there. So he was not going to cut corners. And Qurbani was the film which he believed in. He had bet his last penny on it. In fact, the first scene of the film where Feroz Khan is introduced, and there is a scene where Feroz Khan and Amrish Puri have a bet, and he says that I don't know how to drive a car, but मैं ये कार चला सकता हूँ करके, और वो एक 8 आने या 4 आने की शर्त लगाते हैं.
ये मर्सिडीज गाड़ी है, कभी चलाई है जिंदगी में? चलाई तो नहीं, लेकिन कोशिश जरूर करूंगा. लग गई 8 आने की, हाँ.
And there is a brand new Mercedes which was destroyed for the shoot. And Feroz Khan actually got a brand new Mercedes car and shot that scene. So you can imagine he would go to any lengths to get his vision translate onto the screen. To cut a long story short, he meets Biddu in London and tries to tell him that please compose a song for my film. Now Biddu is a globally renowned musician, a producer, and he's not interested in a Hindi film. He's not going to do a Hindi film number. And the only reason that, or one of the reasons that Biddu actually agreed to do, and Feroz Khan's conviction and his powers to convince people was also legendary. The reason that Biddu realized that he could do this film was simply because his mother back home in India would be happy that he did something Indian in that sense. Anyway, I don't know how much of that folklore is actually true, but what is true is that Feroz Khan also met the then 15-year-old Nazia Hassan at a party and decided that she is going to sing the song that Biddu would compose. Till that time, Biddu and Nazia had never met. And when they were going through the trials, Biddu realized that she has a very nasal quality. Her voice had a very nasal quality. And that is why he decided that the song would be produced in a way that it would have a very, very disco, very popish kind of a echo effect in the production. The song was recorded in London. It was the first Indian song that was recorded on 24 tracks. And once again, just like Kung Fu fighting, Biddu composed आप जैसा कोई मेरी जिंदगी में आए in 10 minutes flat. The success of Kurbani gave Biddu a new lease of life. Not that he was not at the top of his game, but disco was losing its ground, and with Kurbani, suddenly a new door opened for Biddu. And it was not composing for films. He was not interested in that. The only handful of films that he composed later were for personal reasons. He was more interested in what Kurbani had done for him in terms of discovering Nazia Hassan. And with Zoeb, Nazia's brother, Biddu decided that he is going to package them and present them like the Carpenters, a brother-sister duo singing pop songs. And the next thing that happened, again created history, an album called Disco Diwane. The album reached the #1 spot in nearly 14 countries, and believe it or not, it was also #1 in Brazil for a little while. There was not a single house in India and Pakistan, for the sake of argument, that did not have either a cassette or an LP of Nazia and Zoeb's Disco Diwane in the 80s. This song became the anthem for an entire generation. Biddu went on to produce 2 more albums for Nazia and Zoeb, Hotline and Tarang. And these again enjoyed great success. It was in the mid-80s when Biddu also composed music for a film called Star. The film had Kumar Gaurav and Rati Agnihotri. The songs were a smash hit. Again, they became like the anthem for the younger generation of the period. But that film didn't do good business. Unlike Love Story, which was a very big hit and which had established Kumar Gaurav as the next generation superstar, subsequent films of Kumar Gaurav didn't do well. But Star and Romance are 2 films besides Naam that also stand out in Kumar Gaurav's body of work. Star's soundtrack is way ahead of its time, and it's also reminiscent of that time. It captures the zeitgeist, the disco era, the club scene brilliantly. The film may look a bit jaded today, but it's still great fun to watch. And Biddu's music with songs like Boom Boom, by the end of the 1980s, Biddu also composed the score for a film called Goonj. Goonj was famous largely because it was directed by Jalal Agha, who died immediately after the film, a very untimely death at a young age. It featured Kumar Gaurav. It's one of Juhi Chawla's initial films after Qayamat Se Qayamat Tak, and it had great music. It's really a tragedy that people don't know of Goonj's soundtrack. It has songs for all moods. Once again, it gets that disco sound very well. also merges the disco sound with the classic Hindi film songs. Now, if you listen to Kurbani or if you listen to the soundtrack of Star, you know that it's a Hindi film, but you also know that it's limited to the universe that this particular film is exploring, which is the reason why sometimes musicians don't become that big or can't continue working in Hindi films because they can't get that Hindi film sound right. Goonj and Bidu managed to get that right, but once again, because the film didn't do well, people don't remember much of the film. If you don't watch that film, you're not missing out on too much, though it's a good film to understand student politics towards the late 1980s and just before the entire Mandal Commission riots take place. You get an idea of the young mind at that time. Because this is a pre-economic reforms of 1991 India, and it's a completely different world. But the sound of the music that Bidu created is brilliant even to this day. In the 90s, Bidu struck gold on multiple occasions. Many of us don't know the producers for pop albums, but Bidu's distinctive sound, his signature, was there through the course of the 90s. He produced Shaan and Sagarika's initial albums. He also produced Shweta Shetty's Johnny Joker. He produced Sonu Nigam's a few albums for Sonu Nigam. But that one album that Bidu had in the mid-1990s that once again etched his place in the history of Indian music was Alisha Chennai's Made in India. That album struck gold unlike anything before that, and it changed the landscape for Indian pop music. Bidu had originally envisioned this album with Nazia Hassan. And if you hear Alisha Chennai on Made in India, and if you have heard Alisha Chennai's other albums like Jadoo, which she did with Annu Malik in the mid-1980s, and My Name is Alisha or I Am Alisha, which was the first album that she did, Made in India is slightly different from the kind of Alisha Chennai sound and Alisha Chennai style that you would be used to. And you can understand that perhaps this was planned with Nazia. That's why the sounds were different. But nonetheless, Alisha Chennai is very good in that album. Needless to say, everybody has heard that album. And people still remember the video, which was shot by Ken Ghosh and featured Milan Soman. And that album remains one of the best albums produced in India ever. Bidu started concentrating more on non-film music once the 1990s happened, and it's not surprising that he decided to shift gears, because the kind of music that he was best known for as far as Hindi films went could only be used sporadically. They would not be a regular feature, and even with great success like Kurbani or iconic music like Star, Bidu never saw himself as a full-time Hindi film composer. And one can't blame him, because the kind of music that he was best known for, the kind of music that he could just whip up, was something that does not suit the typical Hindi film soundtrack. This is the kind of sound that you need sporadically, you need every once in a while, you need it like a special song or even an item number, as the term goes. And that is not something that Bidu would be comfortable doing, and thank God for that. In the 1990s, there was very little film work that he did, and towards the 2000s, Bidu did compose a few songs for Feroz Khan's Janashi, but that was by and large the end of the road for Bidu as far as Hindi films, the soundtrack for Hindi films went. But having said that, there is a lot more to the guy than just these few songs. And when you know this history, suddenly these songs sound completely different. And that's the beauty of getting to know something that you didn't know, and getting to attach an entire body of work to one particular song or one particular nuance in a song. And that is what makes Bidu peerless, and that is what makes him stand out. I really enjoyed his music in Star, and those were the sounds that one grew up hearing every day, nearly on a daily basis. And even today, when you go back and you hear either Disco Divane or Tarang or songs like Boom Boom and even Zoeb's Ooey Ooey, which was there in Star as well, you can't help but smile at what was happening at that time. And that is what a good memory does. For a musician who influenced films in an indirect manner, Bidu has a great legacy. He has created stars in countries that would not have any direct connection with India or an Indian composer, And that is why he's one of our greatest gifts to the world. Do subscribe to our channel, hit the bell icon and the like button, and tell us what kind of stories you would like us to do, because we love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.